Hey, I'm Dan.
And I'm Mike.
So today we're going to be doing some story notes for a movie called Pod. So it's a smaller independent film, pretty much in one location for the most part. 3 or 4 characters total. Just a really small movie, which is fun to review because
A lot of independent movies are done that way. Certainly, first time out.
and also when you're doing a small movie like this is when the script is most important. You know, it has to be really strong. The concept has to be strong. Characters have to be strong and everything because you don't have much else that you're throwing on screen.
Right.
Just as a quick review, the movie was not super great. It had a lot of, acting wasn't amazing, but I gave it I actually was going to give it a 4 out of 10.
I was going to give it a 2.5, 25% again. Basically, like my barometer now or whatever, my gauge is the more I am thinking about, what's my phone doing right now? If I'm thinking about my phone, then the movie's going to be definitely below 5.
I actually woke up really early and watched it before it was light out, and the reason I gave it the 4 was because there were some parts where I think if you watch it late at night, or I guess early in the morning like I did, there were some parts that were like kind of freaky. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is where you stop right now for sure, because now we're going to go into the story notes. Do you want to kick that off?
I mean, my biggest point of criticism from a story perspective or from a script perspective was that the inciting incident, or at least the real inciting incident, was way too long in the movie.
So
I felt it was that.
Which incident?
Where the crazy brother kills himself. It felt like it was like an hour in and the movie's only like 75 minutes.
Right.
But it felt like really, really long to get to that point. And that was the point where it's like, oh, okay, like shit's ramping up or shit is like more serious.
Right.
And I feel like that should have happened like maybe 10 minutes after they got to the cabin. And they got to the cabin maybe like 10, 15 minutes in.
Right.
So if it had happened at 25 minutes instead of 50 minutes, it's at that point you're going to be caring. Because the thing is, all the characters are siblings. So if that happened, it's not just like, oh, great, crazy brother's acting crazy. This is nothing new. Because that's kind of how they play it.
Right.
But then it's like for like 25 minutes, it's like, no, maybe he's, that didn't pan out. Like that had no value. So if they had moved that right up, then you would have known something more than just a psychotic break or schizophrenic break or whatever is happening.
That does mean that they'd have to build in a lot more in like the body of it.
I mean, that was my second point, or like more to that is the story didn't have enough legs. It felt like it was like a short film that like a 25-minute film that they're like, fuck it, we can just stretch it to 75 minutes and make a feature, which I totally understand. It's coming from independent movies. I totally understand, but I always know, I know that it never works.
That's where my 4 came from, because I did think they had 20 to 30 minutes of like pretty good content. That had me like on the edge of my seat, I guess. I actually thought it was okay because that could have been like a turning point in the story when the brother dies.
Okay, so more like 50% rather than inciting incident.
Yeah, exactly. So but similar kind of note, because what I number one, I didn't think the movie had a good enough protagonist. I assume it was the eldest brother.
Right.
In which case, I thought they could have built more into the setup for that.
Right.
For the eldest brother.
Because they barely did.
They didn't. He shows up at the door to get his sister. And then, we learn that the sister's a bit of a drug, basically just irresponsible, which we've seen before.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, playing the cliche is okay if it pays off, but it didn't pay off.
Right. Yeah, so I thought they could have really built more around him. What's going on in his life right now that makes this a horrible time for this to be happening? I think, if he just had some other things going on.
Right. Well, that was my one other sticking point. Was that again you run into this thing where the script as it's written or the actions that are happening on screen to the characters are acted in a way where you're kind of supposed to care about these guys, but there's no backstory or basis to care for the characters.
Right.
So
kind of the same for like Manglehorn.
Exactly, kind of like the same for Manglehorn. So it's kind of like, instead of coming across as like tense or like, oh no, it's more just like these guys are like whiny.
Yeah, they're really,
and that
really
just it's like takes all the wind out of the sail for the movie moving forward.
So one thing I did actually want to mention is, for both of those notes, it involves coming up with more content for the script, something more to build it up. So if we're talking about kind of what you were saying with the structure of making the brother dying, the crazy brother dying at the inciting incident, then you want to build in more content, more stuff happening through like the meat of the movie.
Right, like another point of interest, like another
like another goal, like what happened. Maybe they find something in the cabin, or that will kind of move them into learning what the heck was going on with his brother or something like that.
Right.
So what I wanted to say was that we could sit here and try to come up with things that would help the script.
But it'd be subjective.
But it'd be so subjective. The point is that you just got to sit at the computer or typewriter, whatever you use, and come up with it. So it's hard for us to...
They kind of hinted on like a shadow agency type thing.
Right. They totally
in like
do.
the last 10 minutes.
In
and
the
you're
last
just like,
10
what?
minutes,
And
right.
it's like very...
I think the Crazy Brothers said it. If he said something about covering it up, maybe.
Oh.
But even still, it's like...
that should have been brought in.
This is a low budget movie. Just don't even go there.
Just don't even, if you can't afford to like have a real...
Or at the very end, if it's like built in the way it was, it's got to be in a way that makes me want to see a second one.
Right.
Which this didn't.
Right. Another funny thing is that it's called Pod, but there were no pods.
True.
At all.
That's right. He said he found a pod.
Lamb.
No pod.
Which is crazy because the
funny.
makeups were really... Like the makeup and the special effects were really good.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like they could have... Like, again, like, that's like... Okay, well, it's called Pod. Put that in. And then, well, what's this thing doing? Maybe it's like hibernating, and then they're like...
Actually, there you go. That could have been a perfect...
Just another...
A perfect content layer for your way. For mine, again, same thing. So adding more content just into the start of the movie to build up the characters.
Okay.
Which kind of goes into my other note, which is a big one among scripts like this. Because it's so small, there's only one location. I thought they did a lot of teeter-tottering because they didn't just sit there and think of new stuff to come up with. It just became scene after scene of the brother telling the sister to calm down and her telling him to stop acting like her dad.
Right.
And that was annoying right in the first scene where they see each other.
The first time they do it.
The first time they do it, it's like, okay, cool,
and
we get their
20
relationship. And then it's like they're sitting in the kitchen and they're just like doing that back and forth together.
Yeah.
And so the conflict of the first 45 minutes
is the same.
Is the exact same. It's that these family unit does not
and
get
whining
along.
Instead of like tension building and and like character development or character caring for the character.
Mm-hmm. Right? As always, if you have ideas for how you can make Pod better, story wise, then definitely leave comments.